Okay, before I start this video, I just want to say that since recording this video, Phoenix has since broken the record again with a 129 2x2 average, which is absolutely insane. I'll link the video in the description if you want to watch it. Also, he told me he might make a reconstruction video of these solves, so if he does end up making it, then I'll put the link below also. Alright, enjoy the video. The Oceanic record 2x2 average. What started off as a bit of a joke quickly stood the test of time as no one could beat it for 3.5 years. But then in late 2021, a bloke from Geelong named Phoenix Patterson set out on a mission to finally break this record. The journey was extremely rough though. +2, lockup and being 0.01 off. +2 again, twice, and a missed one look. But then a few months later, across the Tasman, this happened.
Oh, 1.3 again.
Oh my God, he just did it, huh?
Elyas Eyou from New Zealand finally breaks it with a 153 average after 4 years, and by 0.01 for the second time in a row, which is quite funny. Phoenix did have a competition the week after, but the fact that the record had been broken at all put an enormous amount of pressure on him when he was about to compete in 2x2. So, let's see how that went. Phoenix finally breaks the record with a 148 average. So how are they able to get these times? So in this video, I'm going to be explaining what happened in those averages, and maybe you and I can learn some stuff from them. Once again, I'd like to give a massive thanks to Phoenix and Elyas for letting me do this. I'll link both of their channels in the description so you can watch their solves, and of course congrats to them on getting their first record. So let's start with Elyas and his first solve at 258. So scrambles are on top or in the description. So Elyas chooses the white face for his first solve, and you can solve this in 4 moves. Now to beginners it might not look so obvious, but all you can do is a U2, and that sets up to this case which you can solve with F prime, F. Or an intuitive version, pair up a bar, pair up another bar, and then connect the 2 bars together to make the face. I'm gonna be completely honest, I never knew you could do that until I reconstructed these solves. That leads to a pi EG1 case. Now, it isn't the greatest, but it's fine, I guess. And then U2 AUF. That was 14 moves, which means that was executed at around 5.4 TPS. If you saw in the solve, he had a few lockups, and I think the reason why is because this case, it involves a lot of flick moves from this hand, and overworking this hand a lot can lead to a lot of lockups. However, there is a pretty nice solution on red. If you take this bar and this bar, do a U prime and insert this with R prime, F2, R, F prime, then if you do a U, then you get this 8 move CLO case, which is just hedge and reverse sexy, and no AUF. So that would have been a pretty nice solution, although it's a little hard to see. Now for the second solve, this was a 185. There is a pretty nice case on white where we have the 3 and they're all solved. And we have one corner left. And if you insert this corner by starting with a U prime and then R, U prime, R prime, you'll get a J perm. So you can just do a U2 and then do the J perm like that. So with the JPEM solution, I'm pretty sure Elyas was going for some TPS spammy solution, and he had a few lockups but still managed 9.7 TPS because this was 18 moves in 1.85 seconds. Now for solve 3, Elyas actually calls this his favourite solve of the average, and I can see why. Firstly, we have a 2-move face on orange, which leads to a pretty nice EG1 case, because it's just like... Oh. There is a 3-move face on yellow, and how you can do this is by inserting the corner like this, and then that goes straight into an RU R prime insert, and you can cancel that, so it's basically R2 U R prime. However, you can do that from the back, so that you have the bar at the back, and that is pretty nice for EG1, so you don't have to rotate twice. And that leads to this EG1 case, which is really nice, and actually the even nicer thing about that is you can cancel like this, and before doing the last move of the face, you can go straight into the EG1 algorithm, and that leaves you with no AUF. So basically the full solution would go like this. So that was 12 moves and 8.6 turns per second. So as we're heading into the full solve, this is where things get clutch. The national record at the time was 1.66 by Alexander, and Elyas would need a 1.75 to make it possible. And to make OCR possible, he would need a 139.
Oh, 1.3 again.
1.3, that's fine.
So Elyas gets a 136, barely making OCR possible. So he goes for a very similar solution to solve 1 with the face. We have the same case from before, just not with the U2. So we can do F prime R F, and that actually makes a layer. And then what you can do is you have this really easy CLO case, so just do a U, sexy sledge, and then U prime. So it was a pretty good solution, but it could be improved. Now, if you notice from the previous solve, after we did the layer, we ended up in this angle of this CLO case. Now, if we were to do beginner style and rotate before the algorithm, this corner will actually stay here after the algorithm, like that. So what we can do is do the same layer solution, but from a different angle. That will make it so we face this side of this CLO, and that means we would save 2 U moves. So the way to do that is to hold it like this, and you do an F, and then we have this, so U, R, and then actually we can save another move because we can cancel into sexy sledge. So in the end, that would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 move solution. However, with this 12 move solution, Elyas still managed 8.8 TPS. And for the other 10 move solution, there were 2 flick moves at the start, which can be quite risky. So it's possible that Elyas just went for the safest solution. So it all comes down to the last solve. Elyas just needs a 175 to lock NR, or a 139 to lock OCR.
Oh my god, he just did it, huh? There you go. No, wait, I don't know.
And there you go, a 129 and a 153 average. Although I will say, the solution is a little strange. So we have a 1 move layer on blue, which leads to a pretty nice CLO case, diag pi. And the way that Elyas solves this is questionable, let's just say. The algorithm he uses basically goes back anti-soon, which is basically lefty anti-soon on the back, and then that sets up F sexy F prime. And because the layer could be solved with an R, and the first move of this algorithm is R prime, you can just cancel those moves and just go straight into the algorithm. However, you can do the same type of cancellation with a much better algorithm. The algorithm goes like this: R prime U prime, sledge, R U prime, and then insert this corner with R prime U2 R. Or another way to think about it is you're doing back soon, but after the first 2 moves, insert a sledge, and then finish it off. So instead of this angle, you do it from this angle. Since you can solve the layer with R, and the first move of the arc is R prime, you can just cancel those. So U prime, sledge, R, U prime, R prime, U2 R. And just a little AUF trick, because these colors are opposite, the yellow and the white, there will be no AUF. So 12 moves executed at 9.3 TPS, and that gave Elyas the 1.53 OCR average. But then, a week later, you know the full story. So now we're going to be looking at Phoenix's solves, and here is solve 1.
8 seconds.
So Phoenix goes for the yellow face, and you can actually solve this specific case in 4 moves 2 ways. Either like this, pairing up the bar and then inserting it, or like this, where you put the corner back, do R, U2 to pair them up, and then do another R. And the one that Phoenix chooses is the one that starts with a U prime and then inserting this, because it leaves opposite at the front, which means bar at the back, and that's better for EG1. So R, U2, R, and that leads to this case, which is a really nice case with a U, A, U, F. But if you one look this, you can see that there's actually a cancellation. We do U, R, U2. Now the next move of the face would be R, and the first move of the EG1 is also R. So that is R2. That was 13 moves, which meant that this was executed in 10.2 TPS. That is crazy.
Ready?
Here we have solve 2. This one's pretty unfortunate as it was a 148 but a +2, so a 348. As you can see, there's a pretty easy 3-move EG2 face on orange, and that leads to this EG2 case, which he solves with anti-CLL. So basically what anti-CLL is, it's basically where you have a diagonal face on bottom, and you do a CLL algorithm, for example Sexy Sledge, to force a diagonal layer on top also, and then you do R2, F2, R2 or R2, B2, R2 to solve the cube. So what he does in this case is this CLL algorithm, which is only 5 moves, and by doing that to this case, he can force a diagonal layer on top, and then R2, F2, R2, and then that solves the whole cube. But then he does quite a few cancellations here. Instead of going down, he goes up to cancel into the algorithm, U2, R prime, U2, and then instead of doing R2 and then doing the R2 after R2, he just inserts an F2 here and then does the R2, and then U2 AUF. So basically the whole solution was this. Now one thing he could have done that would have made the solution 1 move shorter is when you get to this point, if he did an R instead of an R prime, he wouldn't have had to do a U2 AUF, but it's very hard to see that, so don't blame him for missing that. Although he did +2, so that was kind of sad. So that was 9 moves, which was executed at 6 TPS. A little slow for him, I guess, although they're all double moves and quite a few regrips. But with the +2, that's 2.6 TPS. Here's solve 3, the best one of the average at 120. And this one's kind of crazy. So what he does, he starts off by inserting this corner with U prime, R prime. Now what I would do here is I would cancel into inserting this corner, like this, and then do U prime and then do F sexy F prime. But what he does is U prime, R prime, and then does U2. Now what he does here is an LS algorithm, and basically what LS is, it's an algorithm subset of 2x2 that solves the entire cube where you have a layer but one corner is missing. So I think how we recognize this is we have a corner facing this way, and then we have the block here, and then the corner, I don't know, just a bunch of random stuff. And the way he solves this is R prime, F prime, sexy move, R prime, F, R2, and then do a U prime. So he told me that he just knows that doing those moves would solve this case, just from experience I guess. And in my opinion, the most impressive part about this is not only like doing the LS, but the fact that he doesn't always use LS. Like if a random LS case shows up, he probably won't know it, I don't know. But the fact that he saw this solution and like did it in 10.8 TPS, which is just ridiculous. He did it with such confidence, and that impresses me so much. So now we're heading into a very clutch 4th solve, and he would need a 2.12 for a chance at OCR. And actually, if he didn't +2 that 148, he would have needed a 184 to lock OCR, guarantee it.
8.
So this was a 190, And despite the amount of blocks that there are, Phoenix decides to go for the white face by firstly moving this corner on top of this corner, and then solving the corner, and then solving this corner like this. So that's a 6 move face, and then that cancels into this EG1, which he solves like this, and no AUF. Apart from one looking a 6 move face, this is a pretty straightforward solution. It was 14 moves executed at 7.4 TPS, although he had a few lockups. So, for the last solve, Phoenix needs a 145 to get national record, and a 142 to get Oceanic record.
Ready?
8.
Hang on, is that?
So he gets a 125, locking a 148 average. But firstly, let's just see how he does it. He does a 4 move face on orange, and then that leads to this EG1 case, which he does from this angle, like this. So take out this corner, reinsert it like this, and then F, I, U prime, R prime, and then no AUF. But again, he cancelled into the EG1, so kind of like this, and then straight into the EG1. What impresses me the most is that this was the clutch solve to get OCR average, and given the amount of times he has failed in the past, I could imagine that he was feeling quite nervous at that very moment. And then he flawlessly executes the solution at 12 TPS, just no mistakes at all while he's probably very nervous. And there you go, that is the current 2x2 Oceanic record average, 1.48 seconds. I originally wanted to make this video firstly congratulating both of them on their amazing achievements, but I also learned a few things from this. For a start, I didn't know you could do this face in 3 moves. Also, I forgot to mention it, but this case, which I would usually solve with this algorithm, I just learned another new algorithm for that. So I hope you learned a few things from this video. 1, a few things about 2x2, how to make efficient layers, and maybe some new algorithms. And 2, the importance of reconstructing solves, especially ones from fast cubers. You can find stuff that you've never seen before. So thanks for watching. Again, congrats to Elyas and Phoenix for their insane records, and I will see you next time.